We've looked at a whole bunch of different controllers on this channel, everything from reimaginings of the classics to the downright weird. In fact, if I keep this up, people are going to start calling me, that controller guy. But then I was made aware of PB Tails CHOC 2.0. Seeing that tiny form factor and unconventional shape, I had to see what that was like. So after a couple of weeks of testing, what did I make of it? What features does it offer? How does it perform? And is that funky angular design going to be a problem? Hello fellow gamers, and is this more about form over function? Or does it actually work?
손끝 사이로 네 맘이 내게 온 건 어쩔 수 없지만
I've tried all sorts of different controllers for a dizzying array of systems in my time, but I haven't reviewed anything quite as small as this. This is PB Tails' latest revision of their CHOC line of controllers, the 2.0. Now, for full transparency, they did reach out to me to review this controller, and I was happy to do so. I wanted to check out that unique design. But you'll be happy to know, like always, there isn't a script included in the box, so all of my words here are my own. So, where do I begin? Well, it supports a variety of different platforms such as Switch, PC, Steam Deck, iOS and Android, and even Raspberry Pi. It has adjustable force feedback, gyro controls, and a turbo option as well. The CHOC controllers also come in a diverse array of funky designs. The one I have here is the Night Warrior one, complete with a metal shell. That's right, instead of plastic, the main body of this controller is made from a zinc alloy. I don't think I've ever had a metal controller before, but I've got to say, I'm rather liking it. It may be cold to the touch the first time you pick it up, but it adds a nice little bit of weight to it, and it's extremely rigid. There's absolutely no flex in this thing, like at all. There is one little downside with it having a metal shell though. It's a bit of a fingerprint magnet. I mean, here you are with your funky looking controller with its flashy decals and quirky geometric design, and after minutes it's caked in fingerprints. You'll want to keep polishing this bad boy to keep it looking its finest. Moving away from its aesthetics and more to its functionality, they've opted for a symmetrical PlayStation style layout, so both analogs are at the bottom, and those look remarkably like Joy-Con sticks, don't they? They certainly feel and move the same as Joy-Con ones. Are they using the same modules here? Does that mean that these are going to be susceptible to stick drift further down the line as well? They're certainly not Hall effect ones. I know this because recently PB Tails released the CHOC 1983, a Famicom inspired controller that does feature Hall effect joysticks. And that does look nice, I'm not going to lie. Oh, by the way, they didn't tell me that they were doing that when they sent this over. I just found out through my own research. Anyway, as these seem to be the same as Joy-Con sticks, it is possible these might succumb to stick drift. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to confirm that. And on closer inspection, the main buttons look and feel remarkably like Joy-Con ones as well. They're perhaps a little softer to the touch, and certainly the ABXY buttons are clearly custom made for this controller, but there's definitely a similarity there. They've even gone for the Joy-Con's 4 separate buttons approach for directional input, rather than a proper D-pad. Now, I can tell they're going for the whole symmetrical look here, and it is nice, but I'll be honest, I would have preferred a proper D-pad. Like many smaller controllers, the shoulder buttons are positioned next to each other, rather than being offset. Now, I can totally understand why PB Tails have done it this way. They're going for a very slim form factor here. And I'm usually fine with this layout. Some of my other controllers have the same positioning, but it won't be to many people's liking. In the middle, there's the plus, minus, home and screenshot buttons you'd typically find on a Switch compatible controller. Oh, and the home button will wake your Switch if it's paired with it. But there's also this 5th T button right in the middle. That's for configuring the turbo functions and the force feedback. Simply holding this and pressing most any other button will enable it, and it does seem to work fine enough. It's got a decent rate on it, around 12 presses per second. Sadly, it does seem to be lacking in a couple of areas. Firstly, there doesn't appear to be an option to change the firing rate of the turbo option, so you can't speed it up or slow it down when a need arises. Though, for all I know, this could easily be addressed in a firmware update in the future. Secondly, unlike some other controllers with the turbo feature, this doesn't include any indicator to show that the turbo is even on, either in use or enabled at all. Without this, you wouldn't even know if the turbo was in effect until you pressed the button. I suppose this could also be addressed in a firmware update, maybe to make the LEDs at the bottom flash when it's in use. The turbo can't be set on the plus and minus buttons though, as instead these allow you to adjust the strength of the force feedback, plus to increase it, and minus to decrease. I find the force feedback is a bit on the sharp side, so I tend to have it set to around 75%. Anyway, that's enough stalling. Let's address the elephant in the room, that sharp, angular design. Now everyone knows the sign of a comfortable controller are sweeping ergonomic handles and gentle curves in all the right places. But the CHOC 2.0 has absolutely no curves anywhere. It's all clean lines, sharp corners, geometric patterns. This can't possibly be comfortable, right? Ugh, damn right it was uncomfortable. It felt incredibly awkward to use at first. It's not like any of the sharp edges poked into my tender flesh or anything, but it was definitely unwieldy. But after maybe 10-15 minutes or so, I kind of got into a groove. My hands started to naturally fall into a position that was more comfortable, and now every time I pick it up, I automatically fall into it. It may be awkward at first, and it's certainly not ideal for long playing sessions, but you do get accustomed to it. I am quite surprised. There is a first version of this, but I'd never tried it when I had agreed to test this out, which is why I think PB Tails were kind enough to send me the first one as well. So, how do they differ? Well, in short, they feel more or less the same. The first version is plastic rather than metal, so it's noticeably lighter in my hands. It also includes a dedicated D-pad, which I would prefer, except this one's a little on the mushy side. Besides those two differences though, and the obvious styling choices, they're pretty much the same. Overall, I do prefer the 2.0 metal one as it's weightier in my hands, but it really could do with a proper D-pad, and not a mushy one either. When trying out either of these controllers with the supported systems I had on hand, it was all par for the course. On Switch, it pairs up rather quickly. It was recognised as a pro controller, and it behaves as such. There was no additional input lag that I could discern, gyro controls behaved as expected, and the turbo worked well when it was in use. There's no NFC for Amiibo support though, which is typical for a lot of third-party controllers. On Raspberry Pi, it worked just as well here too. It connected just as easily as it did on the Switch, and it worked perfectly fine with no issues with compatibility. When I was trying it on PC though, it would connect okay at first, but then it would shut itself off before I could even launch a game. In the end, I had to update the firmware before it would work properly. Once I did get it working though, it was kind of unremarkable. I mean, don't get me wrong, it worked perfectly fine, yeah, but it felt weird to be playing a game on a big-ass PC with a tiny controller. The metal CHOC 2.0 also retails at around 40 to 45 quid when there isn't a sale on. But even when there is, there are other more comfortable controllers available for PC at the same price. It wasn't until I tried the controller on my Pixel 6 Pro when suddenly the CHOC 2.0 made a lot of sense. I did have to initially pair it in D-input mode first by holding both the sync and Y buttons, but once you're connected and you've mapped everything up on each of your emulators, you can simply get on with it. I tried it out with M64 Plus, Dolphin, Redream and Yabashin Shiro, and it didn't falter at all. It was responsive, kept a stable connection throughout, and to top it off, there was no mobile app you needed to install to unlock all of its features. It just connects and it just works. It's a damn sight better alternative to using touch controls, I can tell you. The penny dropped when trying this with my phone when I realised the two together make for a very low profile gaming setup for when you're on the go. The CHOC 2.0's ultra slim form factor takes up very little space in a bag, very useful if you're travelling and carry space is at a premium. Its metal shell also means that it should easily survive being beaten up whilst it's in your bag, whereas plastic controllers might not fare so well. Pairing it up with your phone when you're out and about, or even with a Switch in tabletop mode instead, makes it great for quick drop-in gaming sessions wherever you might be. So, the PB Tails CHOC 2.0. It's a tiny and extremely sturdy controller that works best when you're away from home. Paired up with your phone or even your Switch, it will take up next to no space in your bag, and it's rugged enough that you can just yeet it in there without so much of a care. There are other small controllers out there by other manufacturers such as 8BitDo, But the CHOC 2.0 would certainly be a more viable option if what you need above all else is something a bit more solid. But with that, I'm going to head off, so thanks so much for watching. What do you think of the CHOC 2.0? Might you consider it for on-the-go gaming, or have you been using something else instead? Let everyone know down below in the comments. And hey, while you're down there, a like for the video is always appreciated, and there's always that subscribe button if you want to hear more from me. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.